This is VOA.
We begin our broadcast tonight in South Africa, where ballots are being tallied and voters are hoping for change in the country's sixth democratic election since the end of apartheid. Sisipo Sikweyiya reports from Johannesburg.
Votes are being counted in South Africa as the ruling African National Congress faces its toughest electoral test yet. 25 years after the ANC took power at the end of white minority rule, analysts say the electorate is frustrated by corruption scandals, high levels of unemployment, and slow progress in addressing racial disparities in wealth. That's seen its support slide, particularly in cities like Johannesburg and Polokwane, where some voters said they were hoping for change.
I'm voting because I want changes and I want to stop corruption as well.
We're experiencing poverty, we don't have jobs, those kind of things, So I'm hoping that they'd give us that, give us jobs, stop corruption, which is the main concern of South Africa.
So we need jobs. A lot of young people in South Africa are not working.
My vote is going to bring the changes in this country. We're tired of those crooks in the ANC where they don't even do us anything.
My vote has to make a change. That's what I'm expecting. Like everyone else, everyone's vote has to change things.
Where the poor get more resources and I feel like South Africa should be a better place.
Cyril Ramaphosa, who became ANC leader in December 2017, has promised to create jobs, improve public services and fight corruption. His main challenges are the Democratic Alliance and the leftist Economic Freedom Fighters. Officials say results could be announced on Saturday.
That was Sisipo Sikweyiya of Reuters reporting. Now for more on South Africa's elections, let's go to Johannesburg, where VOA Southern Africa correspondent Anita Powell is standing by live via Skype. Good evening, Anita.
Hello.
Now, the vote counting is ongoing. Any surprises so far?
Well, maybe some people are surprised that the ANC is barely hanging on at just under 57%, which is a drop from the last election where they got about 62%. Analysts predicted that they might do worse this time, but 57% is a lot lower, I think, than a lot of people expected. But the other thing that is surprising this time around is the success, relatively, of a party called the Freedom Front Plus. That's a translation from its Afrikaner name, and they are a white nationalist party. They've gone from under 1% in the last election to 3% just in recent counts. And that is quite surprising that they're surging, and they're now in fourth place, a distant fourth, but it is interesting and surprising to a lot of people.
So, Anita, you mentioned ANC might likely, take the win in this vote, but and also that the margin this time round is low compared to previous elections where ANC was, winning with a landslide victory. What are some of the reasons being given for these falling numbers?
Well, as you just heard from voters, people are upset about the stink of corruption that surrounds the South African government, which has been led by the ANC for 25 years. They're also upset in the lack of basic services that have been extended to all South Africans. If you go out, not just into the rural area, if you go 5 kilometers from this office in the richest square mile in Africa, we're in Sandton, Johannesburg, if you go 5 minutes away, or just a few kilometers, you'll hit the township of Alexandra, which has no basic services, where people are living in shacks, where running water is scarce, where people say that they don't have reliable electricity. And that is a travesty to many voters who say that they're sick of this, living for 25 years, expecting better, and not getting it from the ANC.
Very briefly, any official confirmation from the Electoral Commission as to when we will finally know the results of this election?
So initially they said Saturday, but today there have been some reports of people double voting. The Electoral Commission announced that 19 people have been arrested. They're investigating. It's possible they might slow down the results, and we might only get them 7 days from the poll. So anytime between Saturday and the next few days, we should get final results.
Anita, excellent reporting as usual. Anita Powell, VOA Southern Africa correspondent. Now to East Africa, where Robert Kyagulanyi, the Ugandan singer and legislator better known as Bobi Wine, is vowing to continue using his music to denounce longtime President Yoweri Museveni. But as Halima Athumani reports from Kampala, his music is now facing stiff control from the state.
What is the purpose of the Constitution when the government disrespect the Constitution?
Bobi Wine has been singing and entertaining Ugandans since he was a teenager. Now 37 and a member of parliament, his songs today carry a political message. He says it's time for the country's young people to awake and rise up.
Our message has been primarily a message of mental emancipation, of knowing that Ugandans are actually the owners of this country, and the leaders must do everything they do in the benefit of the people, which is not the case here today.
But it's rare that he gets to sing these days. Since 2017, more than 120 planned Bobi Wine concerts have been cancelled by the police, who say his management failed to meet minimum security standards required to host revelers. To stop his concerts, police have used arrests and tear gas to clear away the crowds. His supporters are not happy.
He's singing about the Ugandan who is suffering, and he's talking about the reality on ground. Those who are living in posh houses and posh cars, moving in SC cars, they do not feel the situation that is happening here. But it is the government that is destroying the peace that is here.
Under house arrest, the musician once again turned to his music to send a message to the police. His message: I am not fighting you, I am fighting for you. Days later, he was arrested again on charges of unlawfully engaging in a protest against Uganda's 2018 social media attacks. He was later released on bail. Political analyst Miriam Matembe says the message of Bobi Wine's music helped him get elected to the legislature.
They elected him because they believe in what he stands for. Now, why should you brutalize him, torture him, simply because you fear that he's threatening your position as the president of Uganda?
Solomon Silwanyi, deputy chief whip of the ruling National Resistance Movement Party, says he does not have a problem with Bobi Wine as long as he can differentiate between his music and politics.
Of course, as a musician, I support Bobi Wine so much. I love the music, I support his music, but as a president of Uganda, of course, I don't support him. I support President Museveni because I believe he still has a vision for this country.
During the 2011 election campaign, President Museveni's team created a song off a rhyme he made during a speech.
You want another rap?
Museveni isn't competing with Bobi Wine on the music stage, but he will have to test his popularity next to Museveni in the political arena if the legislator decides to run for president in 2021. Halima Athumani for VOA News, Kampala.
There have been sustained efforts to fight against early marriages and other forms of gender-based violence in South Sudan. Crown the Woman, a non-profit organization, is working closely with women and girls to debunk culturally held beliefs that women have no value in the South Sudanese society. The organization has launched social media campaigns against the derogatory term Marasakit, which means you are just a woman. Joining me to discuss this issue is Ria Williams, the Executive Director of Crown the Woman. Ria, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much, Esther, for having me here.
What a title, Crown the Woman. How are you planning to do that in South Sudan?
Well, through a lot of ways. Just like the title suggests, Crown the Woman, we have to just make the women of South Sudan and the girls of South Sudan to feel like they are queens that has been left out for so long.
Now, last year, you addressed the United Nations General Assembly on the same topic. What's your approach and what is different that will change a culture that is so deeply rooted, not only in South Sudan, but also in Africa? You know, for generations, this has been the case. Women are seen as the lower, you know, gender.
Right. Thank you so much, Esther. I mean, Crown the Woman is not just a name of Crown the Woman or something that came from nowhere. It came, first of all, from personal experiences, from personal pains, from not just me, but other young sisters that we came up together with this name, Crown the Woman. And yes, I addressed the UN General Assembly last year, and we were talking about issues of women and specifically gender-based violence. And these issues have been going on in South Sudan for a long time. And as we know, South Sudan is still a young country. We just gained our independence in 2011, but yet we have so many struggles and still struggling even to attain peace in our country.
Mm-hmm. But what do you do now to make this culture, change?
Yes,
because a lot of people think the same way.
I am going there. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we have a lot of community dialogues, and as you said, of course, this culture has been there. It will always be there, and we may die when it's still there. One thing that I want to say is culture is a very beautiful thing, but there are just some negative things that are attached to culture that we don't want. One of them is forcing young girls into marriage, which is very common in South Sudan. If you look at the statistics of South Sudan, about 40% to 52% of girls are married off below the age of 18. And this is against their wish. They don't want this. And when you hear terms in South Sudan, they will tell you it's normal. It's normal for a young girl as young as 14 to be married off. This is our culture. And we ask ourselves, what culture is this? Where did it come from and where is it going? And as Crown the Woman, we use community dialogues because it's not easy to come to a woman who is 80 and say, don't accept your daughter to be married off. It's not easy to go to men who want their daughters to be married off for as much as 100 cows and convince them that do not marry off these girls. So the best approach we take is community dialogues. Mm-hmm. We use storytelling using films and comic books and debates to just provoke people's thoughts and conversations on the issue.
Now, very briefly, what kind of social media tools are you using, and are they making any impact?
Social media is also another tool that we use in Crown the Woman to speak about this issue of child marriage. And we use Facebook, for example. We use Twitter. And for Facebook, we get different people. We get teachers, we get students, we get parents, we get lawmakers, we get partners to just speak about what is their thought on child marriage, where did it come from, what are the impacts of child marriage on our young girls and even the young boys, and what is it that we can do to change it. If you're a young girl and you've gone through child marriage, you've been forced through it, what was your experience? We've had a girl as young as 14 who shares her thoughts about she was forced into marriage because she got pregnant at that age. So one of the driving causes is that getting married out of the wedlock. So if you get pregnant, quickly you're forced into marriage, whichever age it is, because they want to take away the shame.
So do you see using social media tools, making any difference, any impact so far?
Well, it is making a lot of impact, because one of the things is...
We can't go too far because yes, it's doing something, and we hope that it will continue to make changes.
Well,
we're running out of time.
All right, I know we're running out of time, but it's creating a lot of changes because it's the start of a conversation among South Sudanese. And besides, social media is a new tool, and since we are catching up with the era of technology, that is one thing that we really want to ensure that youth take advantage of.
Ria, thank you. Very, very impressive. Ria Williams is the Executive Director of Crown the Woman. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, the health impact. Lino, we need to go. See you.
I am Sheka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
The lyrics could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African Beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. In Ghana's capital of Accra, Emmanuel Kojo Ankoma and his team have just arrived at a client's home where they're setting up a mobile barbershop. Ankoma is an entrepreneur who runs Shave Masters, a company that offers male grooming services in the city. He started his outfit 2 years ago after having to wait too long at a barbershop to get his haircut. A basic haircut goes for about $6, but can cost more if the client lives relatively far from the city center. The business now employs 3 barbers and a marketing officer. Next up, the Internet of Things has arrived. Smart tech comes in every unit of this apartment building, one of hundreds of complexes outfitted by the Portland startup IOTAS. Units are equipped with an average of more than 14 different smart features, from switches to security to lighting. When a resident moves in, they download the app, which syncs the devices to personal preferences. When they move out, everything goes back into default mode. And finally, Los Angeles has launched plenty of trends, particularly in the fitness and wellness areas. And now new moms are getting in on the action. In the San Fernando Valley, a group gathers to de-stress and work off pregnancy pounds at a stroller bar class. Doulas and birthing instructors give one-on-one sessions and teach classes on alternative birthing methods that include self-hypnosis. Hypnobirthing teaches mothers deep breathing, imagery, and meditation to help them cope with the pains associated with giving birth without traditional pain relief. And that's what's trending today.
Military officials from West African nation of Burkina Faso joined U.S. National Guard forces here in Washington in a security cooperation program meant to strengthen international alliances. VOA's Alzuma Compaore tells us more.
The Burkinabe officers joined ceremonies marking the 217th anniversary of the District of Columbia National Guard. U.S. Major General William Walker welcomed his West African colleagues as part of a partnership program sponsored by the U.S. Departments of State and Defense.
I mean, we're absolutely fascinated to be able to support Burkina Faso and help them strengthen their ability to counter violent extremism in the region, not just in Burkina Faso, but in the region.
The U.S. Security Cooperation Program began on the continent of Africa in 2003 and now involves militaries from 14 nations. Jamaica joins Burkina Faso in partnering with the National Guard here in Washington, D.C. to build lasting relationships built on common interest and mutual respect. U.S. Ambassador to Burkina Faso, Andrew Young, says it is strengthening ties between the countries.
We're together planning our 5-year plan to work together in how we put flesh on the bones of this arrangement. And I'm very pleased to announce that for the July 4th anniversary of the independence of the United States of America, who will come to Burkina Faso but members of the DC National Guard to help us celebrate that wonderful anniversary. Those are examples of how we're working together to have a concrete relationship that advances our common interests.
Violence fueled by extremists is on the rise in Burkina Faso, where there have been more than 200 attacks in just over 3 years. Ambassador Young says the partnership with the DC National Guards comes at the right time.
The agreement that we signed between the District of Columbia National Guard and the Armed Forces of Burkina Faso was launched at the beginning of this year. Within 1 month of launching that accord, we had members of the DC National Guard working side by side with members of the Armed Forces of Burkina Faso in the largest special forces exercise in Africa, Flintlock 2019.
What the District of Columbia National Guard hopes to get out of this partnership, first of all, is the ability, the opportunity actually, to deploy to another country, another continent, and do something that's unknown, that's different, that we haven't done before. And I believe we will enhance our individual and collective readiness from exercises such as this.
U.S. officials says Burkina Faso is a strategic ally and an active partner in the fight against violent extremism. This partnership includes assistance aimed at strengthening the country's capacity in counter-terrorism, peacekeeping, and intelligence gathering. Arzuma Kampaure, VOA News, Washington.
It's time for our health segment, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with more on new Ebola vaccination recommendations, right?
That's right, Esther. After a surge in new Ebola cases in Democratic Republic of Congo, the World Health Organization's strategic advisory group is suggesting a dramatic expansion of its vaccination program. Health workers fighting Ebola currently use a ring strategy, vaccinating a first group of anyone directly exposed to a known case of Ebola and a second of anyone exposed to someone from that first ring. Now, the WHO's strategic advisory group suggests, among other measures, expanding the program to a third ring of people who have come into contact with people from the second ring. But a large share of the newly confirmed cases are occurring in people who were not known contacts of earlier patients. Ebola is also spreading to areas where it is impossible to trace contacts and swiftly vaccinate them. According to the WHO, there are more than 1,500 people with confirmed or probable cases of Ebola, and over 1,000 have died. Officials in Mozambique are scrambling to contain a cholera outbreak in its northern region after Cyclone Kenneth devastated the area last month. Kenneth destroyed health clinics and contaminated the water supply. The World Health Organization says that nearly 190,000 people are in need of health assistance or at risk of diseases in Mozambique.
Due to the lack of accessibility, the full extent of the damage to the health system is not known. At least 17 health facilities have been damaged, but this number is expected to rise.
Kenneth struck while Mozambique was still struggling to deal with the impact of Cyclone Idai, which hammered the country's central region just weeks earlier. Idai slammed the port city of Beira and killed more than 1,000 people across Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. According to the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, cholera cases in Cabo Delgado province have risen almost fivefold to 64 since the outbreak was declared last week. Doctors Without Borders and other medical relief agencies are supporting the Ministry of Health by providing materials such as tents and water and sanitation equipment for a cholera treatment center in Pemba. About 500,000 cholera vaccines are expected to arrive in the region in the next few days. Dr. Stelio Dimande is Community Health Director with the USAID flagship maternal and child survival program in Mozambique. I spoke with him recently about the aftermath of cyclones Idai and Kenneth.
It's a critical moment. We had two cyclones affected the country in a very short period. One affecting the central part of the country, affecting more two provinces, Manica and Sofala, with the largest destruction in Sofala, in 4 districts, in Beira City, which is under the level of the sea. Also Nyamatanda, Dondo, and Buzi, which are districts close to Beira City. And the second cyclone affected the north part of the country, in largest proportion in Cabo Delgado, which is the province most at the north of the country. The Idai cyclone caused numerous fatalities, and the destruction was close to 90% of the Beira City. It has been complicated, provide health services and ensure access to potable water, access to food for the different communities, and linked with a humanitarian organization, we had this role to support the different communities in this situation. But I have to say, definitely, that it has been not difficult as could be, considering the different support we receive from different entities and different countries, in special from the U.S. government. And I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for this important support in terms of medicine, drugs, in terms of food, in terms of different other aspects relevant to provide assistance to the community.
Okay, so then what would you say are the priorities now?
The priorities now are related with access to food for the community, provide safe spaces for the community members have lost most of the goods. Related to health, the available staff to provide services is not a big issue, but considering that health facilities also was affected and an important number of medicine drugs was also affected, and despite the support we have been receiving from different donors and partners, certain medicine drugs will be also necessary for the next months. We have to be providing support.
And Dr. Dimande, who was visiting from Mozambique, hopes the health infrastructures destroyed by the cyclones can be rebuilt soon so communities will have full access to the care they need. That's our health report for today. To stay in touch for more, find me on Twitter at Lenore Mudu. Esther, that's the story from Mozambique.
No, impressive as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be sure to watch Lenore Mudu's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night.